Yeah.
So awesome. Well,
Yeah.
enough about sound deadening. Let's move on to how in the holy fuck are we talking about making speakers now? Because I feel like you're just a machine. You're like, you go from installing, then you're like, you know what, I'm gonna do sound deadening. Then it's like, you know what, I'm tired of sound deadening now. That's going. I'm bored. You're ADHD in the
I'm
shit
not
out.
bored. I promise you, I'm not bored.
So now we're talking about making speakers.
So
Hold up before we even talk. Are we gonna name it ResoNix subwoofers, or are you okay? Cool. I didn't know. I didn't know if you were gonna come up with a cool.
A lot of people are asking me that. I'm like, why the fuck wouldn't I name it that?
I just didn't know if you were gonna come with something cool. Like, I don't know.
Oh, ResoNix isn't cool. All right.
No, I'm talking about
like this podcast right now.
like Gustavo 15 or like Peter.
No. Yeah. So I told you the model names are going to have model names, but ResoNix as a company.
No, of course. Yeah. I'm talking about like the model names. I didn't know.
Oh, yeah. I want to name them after my cats.
You should.
I don't know if it's a good idea, though, from a marketing, like to a broader audience standpoint. You know, if this was me a year ago, I'd be like, yeah, I don't care what the fuck I name it. I'll name it the Gus 10, Gus 12, or the Peter 10 or Peter 12. But now I'm like, oof, does it really fit what ResoNix has grown into?
Yeah.
And Luke, I don't know if you know this, Luke Olette has actually named a few of my products. Luke named Guardian and named Lockout.
Oh, nice shit.
And how I name those, I put up a poll in my customer Facebook group.
Yeah.
The private group, like, you know, for ResoNix customers only. And I was like, hey guys, like, this is the product that's coming up. By the way, in that group, if you're a ResoNix customer, you know, join it, put your order number in, I'll see it, I'll approve you. And in there, you know, we talk about, you hear about everything first, like way before the public hears about stuff. I involve the community. There's special sales, special discounts for already standing ResoNix customers. But I was like, yeah, well, guys, what do you think I should name it? And Luke, I think, commented, name it something Halo themed. And background, me and Luke actually knew each other somehow through other means way before car audio was in either of our lives.
Shout out to Luke. Luke's a man.
Yeah. And we played highly competitive Halo 3 together. I don't think we knew each other super well, but we knew a lot of the same. It's just like car audio, small community.
Yeah.
But you know, we knew some of the same people. We played with some of the same people. We were going to the same events, and you know, I didn't know his first name or anything, or his real name or anything, but just side story really quick, how I reconnected with Luke. He made this post on the DIY mobile audio forums asking about like DSPs or something like that. And I don't remember how it came about, but eventually we started messaging each other privately. He was asking me about the Helix stuff because he had to integrate into his OEM Bose system or non-Bose system of his, you know, Sierra.
Yeah.
And I was like, dude, just call me. This will be easier to explain. And I didn't know his real name. His username is Rick Wilson.
Yeah, Rick Wilson.
And I know his name was Luke. And I'm looking at this username, and I'm like, something about this just sounds familiar. And I get him on the phone, and I walk him through, like, you know, what product would work best for his application. And we're about to get off the phone. I'm walking to my car to get in to drive to my shop. And I stop. I'm like, hey, we're about to get off the phone. I'm like, hey, wait, really quick. I was like, your name's not Rick, is it? And he's like, no, sorry. My name's Luke. I'm like, okay, where does Rick Wilson come from? Because that's ticking a box in my head and I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, it's nothing. I'm like, no, really. Where did that name come from?
Yeah.
And I really could not think of what it was doing in my head, but I was like, I know this name from something. I just don't know what.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, it's my old Xbox gamer tag. And I was like, what did you play? And he's like, I used to play a little bit of Halo 3. And I was like, you motherfucker. I was like, did we meet at MLG Meadowlands or something? Because I think we did. Or like we must have known some of the same people. Because, you know, I was there. We were going to the same tournaments, like I said, whatever. He was like, name back to the Guardian story.
Yeah.
He's like, name it after something Halo related. And then he said, actually, name it Guardian after it's like the most iconic Halo 3 map. And then I came out with Lockout, like the smaller brother of it.
Yeah.
Lockout is the Halo 2 version, the earlier version of Guardian.
That's cool.
Yeah. So Halo 2 came out. Lockout was like the map to play on, like the map. And then Halo 3 came out, and people loved Lockout so much, they just did like a different version of it, and that was Guardian. Yeah. Wow. Actually, there was another more closely accurate version of it, but they botched it. That was called Blackout. But yeah, we went with Guardian and Lockout.
That's cool.
And then he texted me the other day. He's like, keep it Halo themed.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, that would be so cool. Like some of the things in the Halo universe it's like, there's such cool opportunities to name stuff like when you're pulling from that universe. But I was like, yeah, but I want to name it after my stupid idiot little cats. And yeah. So how I got into it.
Yeah, so let's talk about it. Well, let's first talk about why you got into it, and then the kind of like the rest, like why, because there's a million other things you could be creating. I mean, you already have Akiton, you already have MP.
Yeah.
Then you're just like,
well, so let me stop you. I'm not creating speakers.
Okay.
Creating subwoofers.
Yes, that's correct. It. But
I'm not
Akiton
really interested in doing
a subwoofer. Correct.
They do. Who is spending? I'm not even going to say the price, but who is spending thousands of dollars on a 10-inch or 11-inch subwoofer?
True. Agreed. But so why? So you didn't want to create speakers. Is there a reason why? It's just because you already have the best?
No. Why did I create ResoNix in the first place?
Because there was no better offering.
It was out of necessity.
Yeah.
So the Illusion C12s, my favorite shallow subwoofer, the C12 XLs, the bigger version, both some of my favorite subs, no longer being made. A lot of these other options on the market, not really cutting it for me. When people, Audio Mobile is what I stumbled upon.
Yeah.
I've used them in the past a lot. I was really happy with their performance. I first used them maybe 10 years ago, the Audio Mobile Evos, and I loved them. They were great. And I've used them here and there every now and then when customers have brought them to me and stuff like that. But I didn't really know much about them. They never really seemed to exist. And then all of a sudden they existed. Like they were like, yeah, we're a company. Like we're here. Like we have products, become a dealer. And I was like, oh shit, awesome. Let me give those a shot. Yeah. Like it's all the same product. It's all great. It's amazing stuff. Then Miguel, go buy an Audio Mobile Encore right now.
Yeah. Good luck.
Go buy an Audio Mobile Elite right now.
It's not happening.
Go buy an Audio Mobile Evo right now.
Actually, do you even have them anymore?
I have the only one I have that's technically in stock is the Encore 15, and I have 2 of them left.
I'm surprised at the 15 because last year when I was running mine, everyone was hurting. They were like, I need those. I heard Miguel's car, and then like I was like, good luck getting them, dude.
Well, no, so last year at finals you're talking about, right? Or before that?
Before that.
All right. So before that, yeah, around no, right after finals, I had 45 of them. I ordered 45 of them.
Before them, when people were like trying to get ready for finals, they're like, I need those. I was like, I don't know how to help you because
yeah. So the story with them is it's not my business to really say, but I'll keep it brief.
Yeah.
There's some stuff going on in the background. They're not, and on top of the whole import tariffs thing, they're just paused completely. And before that, the one owner is a lunatic nightmare to deal with. Anyone who's ever seen him or spoken to him knows just how he behaves, how it all happens, and how he does stuff. And I was a victim of some of that at one point. So I was like, you know what? I'm done. I later found out there was another owner who had a lot of inventory hoarded, and he wasn't really telling anyone. No one even really knows that this other owner exists. Mm-hmm. And I ended up just buying pallets. I was like, just send me everything you got.
Gotcha.
And I had like 6 pallets of this stuff, and sold out. It's gone. Yeah. Less than 6 months later, it's all gone. And except for the 15s, and I only have like 2 of them left. And I I have one of each model and size that I had just in case there's like a warranty issue.
Yeah.
And I can like give them something in the meantime. But now that those are gone, you know, I was actually offered by the other person, hey, do you want to buy Audio Mobile? Do you want to buy the rights to it? Problem was the, you know, psycho partner that everyone knows, the public facing one.
Yeah.
I was like, I want nothing to do with that. They're like, hey, no, don't worry. Like the thing I'm involved with, he's going to be out. I was like, I don't want nothing to do with that.
Yeah.
But it put something in my head. I was like, wait a second. Why don't I just do so? I was like, I know this stuff. Like I know people and I have the resources to do this. Like, why don't I just do it?
Okay.
So I made a phone call to a friend of mine who is a speaker engineer. And I was like, hey, let's set up a meeting. We gotta talk about some stuff. And he's like, please tell me you're finally ready to do a car subwoofer. And I was like, yeah. And
Sweet.
he was like, fuck yeah, let's go. And you know, he's a car audio hobbyist, but he works more, he's a speaker engineer, but works more in the commercial and home side of things. You know, his company that he works for designs and manufactures subwoofers for like ultra high end home systems, ultra high end like commercial systems and movie theaters, stuff like that. They do like, you know, small speakers for like, you know, like Bose, like Bluetooth speakers, and Samsung, like JBL's, like Bluetooth speakers, stuff like that.
Yeah.
They do stuff that's like a lot bigger than car audio. And, but he's a car audio hobbyist. And, you know, I'm working with someone who I'm really proud to be working with these guys.
Yeah.
And, you know, I'll be the first one to say, no other company comes out and says, yeah, we didn't design this in-house. We worked with these guys. I'm not going to say who I'm working with because it's not that I'm hiding it. I'm just not sure how I want to bring them into the picture. I'm not sure if they want to be spoken about yet. I didn't really talk to them about this because they're more of like a in the background type of company. They mind their own business.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure how I want to bring them into the picture yet. I'm more careful about my marketing these days as opposed to just throwing shit into the wind.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I'm really proud to be working with them. One of the best low frequency transducer engineers out there. And other people have told me that, not just me saying that about this person. So I'm really excited. And how it came about, really, it was just out of necessity. I don't have an offering. And to go back to what ResoNix is as a whole, it started as a way to supply my shop with a need for sound treatment materials for my car audio installs. It has evolved into something totally different where it's an e-commerce store where you can get high-end automotive and industrial sound treatment materials and high-end car audio products. And I had the idea kind of ish recently. I was like, I want to turn this into something more than just sound treatment products.
Yeah.
I want to be a one-stop shop for high-end car audio. Period.
Yeah.
You know, I want to offer what do you start with? You know, your processor, amplifiers, speakers, sound deadening, all the install, you know, RCAs. I want to get power wires, speaker wires, stuff like that. I want to offer all of this. And I didn't have a good way to offer subwoofers. I was like, fuck it. I'm just going to make it. And, you know, here we are.
Is there any inside scoop you can give the listeners here that we don't have been published?
What kind of inside scoop? Like what they are?
Yeah, just whatever you got. Something that hasn't really been told yet. You know, I know you're offering 10s, 12s, and 15s right now. You got like ultra shallow and shallow offerings.
Yeah, so we're doing this. It's 3 lines of subwoofers, 3 models, and inside of those models are different sizes.
Okay.
It started with the idea of what we're referring to as our moderately shallow subwoofer. I'll just be open and honest here. This is the subwoofer that is coming in to replace the Audio Mobile offerings, where they're kind of shallow, but they're not like shallow like they're not like this thin.
Yeah.
You know, they're like this. They're not deep. They're not like conventional subwoofers. but they're not shallow subwoofers.
Kind of like Utopia 10WM kind of size?
Shallower.
Shallower. Okay. So like
actually, I don't know offhand how deep or shallow those are, but like that's kind of the goal, is like a conventional subwoofer, but keeping it in as small of a form factor as possible, and maximizing what we can do there. Instead of just saying like, yeah, like here's a 7-inch deep. Say that again.
No, sorry. Is this supposed to replace like the Encore line of Audio Mobile?
We're using the Encore as our reference. So I actually sent my last Encore 12 to these guys. They Klippel tested it, and they actually said, they're like, wow, we're actually very surprised. This is the first car audio subwoofer that we have tested that isn't, I'll use their words. This is not mine. They're like, this is the first car audio subwoofer we tested that isn't bad. And I was like, what do you mean? They're like, it doesn't do anything wrong.
Yeah.
It has a linear and symmetrical BL curve, has a linear and symmetrical suspension curve, has a linear and symmetrical and low inductance curve, and it has low distortion. I was like, yeah, that's why I like them. That's why they're great. They also do small enclosures, relatively-ish large enclosures, but like they were good. Yeah, good subs. And they're like, yeah. I'm like, how many other car audio subs have you tested? Like, they're like, oh, we've tested a lot. Like, you know, it's not that they don't work in car audio at all. It's just that they don't do it often, but they have done car audio projects and they've tested a lot. And they're like, yeah, this is the best car audio sub we've ever tested. And I was like, perfect, because that is my reference. That is my subjective reference. And now it's also my objective reference, not just in its size and footprint and like the enclosure styles that it can take, but also its BL, its suspension, and its inductance and distortion performance. And they're like, okay. I was like, we are not coming out with a subwoofer that performs worse than this. Do you understand? And they're like, heard, easy.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, cool. So that is our moderately shallow sub. We're going to do a 10, a 12, and a 15. The goal is for them to be specialized for ultra small sealed enclosures. These are probably going to take the smallest sealed enclosures out of any conventional subwoofer on the market.
Okay.
The simulations that we have, we don't have the prototypes fully done yet. They're almost done, but the simulations that we have, you know, they're an engineering firm. They can simulate everything. It's not just like, oh, let's make up some TS parameters. They can simulate a motor. They can like design it in CAD and then simulate how it behaves. They can simulate the suspension. They can simulate the cone. They can simulate all this stuff. So they're like, yeah, they built out a speaker in CAD. Yeah. And they're like, all right, and here's all the simulations. They're like, we have a simulation of this should be our BL curve, this should be our suspension curve, this should be our inductance curve, and here are the TS parameters. And the 15-inch can handle half of a cubic foot with a QTC of 1. Wow. Which is not ideal, but it is fine for 99% of.
I mean, for that small end of include, yeah. I mean, that's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah. The 12 is optimized for a half of a cubic foot and can go lower. The 10 even lower than that. But you don't even really need to go lower than a half a cubic foot. That's like so tiny.
So are you using some? I've noticed that most speaker manufacturers like create like, let's just call it the 12, right? They create the motor structure and all that, and then they just scale it up or down depending on the cone size. Are you doing that?
Nope. Okay. Every size is a different motor, different suspension, different coil. It's funny you brought that up. Me and Adam were just talking about that right before I hopped into this call with you. Yeah. He was messaging me on Facebook and I was talking about, well, there's a really good subwoofer out there that the word on the grapevine or through the grapevine is they designed the 12 and improperly scaled the 10, and the 10 performs really badly and the 12 performs very well. I'm not going to say which one. You'll probably see it in the Klippel data that, you know, we compiled a bunch of subwoofers. You sent me a subwoofer. I'm not going to say which one, just so you don't get any backlash, just in case, because that owner is a little bit feisty. Yeah, we have about 25 to 30 subwoofers on hand that we're Klippel testing and distortion testing. And we are not releasing these subwoofers until our subs perform the absolute best and do so at a price point that is lower than the higher performing models. So where was I? Yeah. Anyways, we are doing different designs for each model or for each size. They're not like totally different. Like I'm not going to sit here and lie to you and say like, yeah, no, it's a totally different subwoofer. It's just we're properly scaling them.
Yeah, you're actually integrating into the actual cone size.
Yeah. Well, it's not even really. It's just, hey, what do we need out of a 15? What do we need out of a 12? What do we need out of a 10? Let's look at them as individual subwoofers instead of just a subwoofer, and then like click and drag it to make it bigger or click and drag it to make it smaller. We're doing things proper. And I didn't even really have to tell them. They just started like, yeah, like this is the design for this. This is a little bit different. We're using a different coil. The motor is slightly different. And in my head, I was like, oh, so I don't have to. I was like, yeah, this is good. I was like, they're already on the same page as me.
Okay. So one line is ultra shallow, relatively shallow, but super small box.
Yes.
And then you have let's go to the super shallow sub. What's that?
Yep. It is going to, essentially what we're doing is we are going to try, or we're trying to take the idea of what one of my favorite subwoofers was, the Illusion C12, the shallow. It's no longer made anymore. I have one of them in my car as a front sub. I've used them countless times in customers' cars. I love them.
Yeah.
And they no longer make them anymore. And I was like, God damn it. And again, out of necessity, doing this whole thing. And it's like, yeah, okay, I need an ultra shallow, possibly magnet on the front just to save, depth. And the thing is, I want to, make it perform as good, if not better. And I sent a C10 in and a C12 in. I will, they're not made anymore. So whatever, I'll just say it before the data even comes out.
Let's do it.
The C10 measured horrifically. Horrific.
Yeah.
Which I have never really used the C10s. I've only really used the 12s.
Okay.
The XLs, I've only used the 12s. I've actually never once, I don't even think I've ever even had a 10 in my hands. So I don't know about the XLs, but the C10 shallow measured horribly. The C12 did a lot better, but wasn't as amazing as I thought it would. And this kind of goes back to the point of like every car audio sub that these guys have tested is like not great. There's always some crazy compromises for the sake of marketing or cost savings or packaging or needs of installation, or sound quality and performance there is like usually not even close to the top priority. I don't know if it was for these. I have no clue. I can't speak to how they were designed. I'm not saying that they were bad. Like I said, subjectively, they were the C12s were one of my favorite subs ever. Yeah. And you can find countless records of me saying that. Yeah. So, but they got back to me and said, yeah, here's the results of the 12. Here's the results of the 10. The 10 is not good. The 12 is good. Not as good as like you would hope out of it, but it's still good.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, so where do we stand? They're like, as far as what? I'm like, as far as our ultra shallow. And they're like, oh, we're going to smoke these things.
Sweet.
And I was like, whoa, how so?
Yeah.
They're like, we're going to be able to get like double the linear excursion, because the measured linear excursion was much lower than like the stated linear excursion.
Yeah.
We're going to be able to get double the linear excursion, and we're going to be able to have lower distortion.
Sweet. And in terms of what size compared to, let's say, a C10 size, because that's the benefit of like the C10, because like,
about the same.
Okay.
Yeah. Sweet. Let me see. I have some notes right here. I don't know it off the top of my head. Let me just go.
While you're doing that, I'm going to ask you one question.
Well, I have it right here.
Okay, go ahead.
We're aiming. So the 10, we're aiming for 3¼ inch depth for the ultra shallow. The 12-inch, we're aiming for 3¾ of a depth. The 10-inch moderately shallow, we're going for 4¼ The 12-inch, we're going for about 4.5, and the 15, we're going for 5-inch.
Wow.
Yeah.
Let me first ask you this. The Truly sub, that little baby thing, have you clippled that one? Are you clipping that one?
We're gonna.
Sweet. It's just, I mean, I personally never heard them, but
I've used one once.
It seems, you know, I looked at the website yesterday because,
they're very cool looking.
Yeah, they're cool, very
they're
expensive,
sexy.
But
they're
I was
sexy
like,
looking.
When you start looking at like the verbiage, it starts reading to me very marketing forward.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, is this actually like a good subwoofer that can be used in like higher end vehicles that, like, let's say like a Lambo or a GT, where you just don't have a lot of space? Is this
so that's what they do? That is their marketing. I don't know if you've noticed, but you know, I have a little bit of insider scoop being in that car audio industry and have been so for years. Their marketing push is we're going to get all of the installers that like everyone looks up to that does really high end cars, really cool stuff, really cool looking builds. And we're just going to start like giving them like cheaper products or whatever, or set up some program. I don't know if they're giving them price breaks or what, but that was the whole thing. Like I remember, you know, getting an approach for a similar thing with like related to the same company. I don't remember if it was from them directly or if it was from the sales rep. But getting that approach, and of course now, you know, the shop that I was an owner of is one of those people doing that push with them. So they're just going after super high-end cars and like people with a lot of money. It seems like. I don't want to speak negatively of them. I don't really know the people there, so like it's not really my place to speak negatively about them or what their intentions are, because I don't know what they are. I have used the subwoofer once, the 10-inch, which is all they have right now, I think, the 10-inch, like super shallow one. And we used it for a front subwoofer in a customer of mine's car. I help out a local shop to me. I send them all of my customers. I help them with the system design. I tell them what the install has to be. And then I come in and do the OEM integration and the tuning. Matt Kim does all of their like 3D scanning and printing for all like the really crazy fabricated parts. So we help them out, and you know, really small shop, but very nice people, very fun people. Love those guys. Jose, Bruce, Joey. I love you guys more than anything in the world, even though I hate you at the same fucking time. They'll understand exactly what I'm talking about. But you know, Sound Concept in Nanuet, New York, in case anyone's wondering, that is who I send my customers to now. You can still contact me for systems and I can, you know, transition you into that, you know, relationship. But anyways, we did a front sub. We did a Truly in a customer of mine's truck. Worked good. Subjective opinions here. This is well, let's wait for the data. Because I am buying one and I am sending one in for Clipple testing. I actually texted someone to purchase it yesterday. I'm waiting to hear back. I'll follow up with them after this. But it did good. General, if I could describe it in one word, was fine. There was one problem. You and I both, we like to push our systems.
Of course.
What do you cross the front subwoofer at?
40.
Okay. I couldn't cross it at 40.
Which is intriguing because the marketing says it's all about, oh, it's a full-size subwoofer in a small package. That's what I want to ask.
No. 40 hertz, small sealed enclosure, you know, is the proper enclosure size, if not smaller than it really needed to be, which should protect it on the lower end. Crossing it at 40, start pushing the volume. The owner of this car probably doesn't push the volume that hard. He's more of a relaxed type of listener, so whatever. But when I was listening to it, not even pushing it as loud as my car, like you heard a point where it was sounding fine, not fine.
Gotcha.
And you're like, oh, back down. Move the crossover to 45, made it a little bit further, started struggling again. I ended up crossing it at 50. Yeah.
Well,
so I don't know. Again, actually, speaking of the devil, Matt Kim is calling me right now.
Shout out to Matt. That's the boy.
Yeah, audio and reach. Anyone watching this, if you need custom fabrication and you are not capable of it, Matt Kim, offers the coolest service in the world. Matt used to work for me at Apicella Auto Sound and then at the next shop that I owned. He's one of the best in our industry for fabrication, because not only is he really good at fabrication, he also, unlike most of these other fabricators, or I can actually go out and say pretty much all of these other fabricators, he actually understands acoustics in a car.
Yes, he does.
And he offers a service where he will rent the same car that you own, 3D scan it, and 3D print and fabricate the parts and finish the parts that you need for a respectable, like swallowable price.
Yeah, very, very respectable. And the quality of work when you see it in person it's insane. It's amazing. His fit and finish really is perfect. I just went to tuned Mike S's, I forgot his last name, how to pronounce it, but he's in Illinois. Something like that. I just didn't want to butcher it. And the way these were the best looking mid-range pods I've ever seen. Like the angle and everything match perfectly, even to like the exact same plane as the OEM dash. Yeah. And I'm just like, dude, like Matt killed this. And I was like, and you didn't have to do nothing. You just sat here, told him what you wanted. He sent you a prototype. Does it fit? Yes, cool. And then the actual one comes in, fully wrapped and everything. I'm like, yep, this is awesome. Yeah, Matt Kim, he is the man. He's actually coming over next Friday to come take a listen to the listening room. What? Yeah, he's driving down here.
You're in Houston right now.
I'm in College Station.
Or you're in College Station.
Yeah.
He's in New York right now, no?
Yeah, he's driving. I think he said sometime next week. He'll be here Friday.
Okay.
Yeah, he's coming here to like kind of get pre-set up with his in his new place, and then he's going back to Florida. Not Florida, sorry,
New
York. I think he's flying back, grabbing the rest of his stuff, and then fully moving September 1st? Question mark.
I should just give him. He should just ship his car and put a bunch of stuff in it. It probably won't even be that much money to do that.
Probably.
Anyways. But yeah.
Cool.
So
truly sub. Got it.
It seems to do fine as long as you don't push it. But it being that thin, it has mechanical limitations.
Oh, of course.
The coil also being as big as it is, it has its limitations. It does have limitations. They are claiming a lot, but you know what? They have a very interesting design. They have a very crazy design.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how it'll do in, clipple testing. I don't know how it'll do in distortion testing, but we will see. I won't even speak on that side of it because it's irrelevant at this point, because I'm going to send it in. But the only thing I can offer is my subjective, anecdotal, one-time use case thing is I just had to cross it high. It couldn't handle low frequencies with any amount of volume.
Gotcha. So then let's talk about your third offering, which I'm guessing is just a regular size subwoofer.
We're going for infinite baffle. So we're targeting super small sealed with the moderate, normal size sealed with the ultra shallow. Believe it or not, the ultra shallow requires a larger enclosure than the let's talk about this for a second. I'm sorry.
Yeah. No, let's do it.
Ultra shallow requires a little bit larger of an enclosure than the moderately shallow, just because you can't get as much motor force out of an underhung motor. The ultra shallow designs are an underhung design, which is awesome, from a distortion standpoint. But you just can't really get the motor force out of it without making the motor gigantic.
Yeah.
So, but here's the positive side of that or the light at the end of the tunnel for that is some speakers are very sensitive to enclosure size changes, right? To hit a QTC of 0.707 in an enclosure, like changing the size, it's very important to get close to that. And like changing the enclosure size a little bit can affect a lot. The way these are designed, going from on the 12-inch, I think it is, the 12-inch, it requires an enclosure of 3.5 cubic feet for a QTC of 0.707. But in a car, again, due to cabin gain, we don't necessarily need QTC of 0.707. And most people will be using these as front subs anyway. To hit a QTC of 1, which I find perfectly acceptable in a car, that's what the Q is in my vehicle. Do you think it lacks low frequency extension?
I don't know.
It's 10 hertz flat on a mic, so no. You can get away with a 0.5 cubic foot enclosure. So it's fine. So Yeah. Moderately shallow, ultra small enclosure, ultra shallow, normal sealed enclosure, but not sensitive to very small. And then we're stepping up all the way to infinite baffle.
Real quick,
And
before we go into that, will you be offering grills for your subs?
I was thinking about that the other day. The original, we never spoke about it, but I actually want to ask about what we can do about getting grills made.
Okay.
To be honest with you, I doubt it.
Gotcha.
I doubt it. But I'm going to try. I'm going to try my best.
It would be nice.
Yeah, it would be nice, but I don't know. I just don't know what it'll entail. I'm not educated enough in that side of manufacturing or whatever. But the Infinite Baffle 15, we're originally starting with the idea of doing just a 15, because personally, I see 0 point personally in doing an Infinite Baffle subwoofer with a 12-inch, because if people make it this far in the podcast, they are definitely going to argue this part, but I will absolutely 100% die on this hill. And this is also, I actually asked the engineer who's designing this subwoofer this question without even giving him my feelings on it to see what his answer was. And he has the same thoughts that I do. At the end of the day, infinite baffle, sealed enclosure, it does not matter. It purely comes down to what the system total Q is. So in an infinite baffle application, you are using the Q of the speaker to designate what the end QTC is, the total Q is. In a sealed enclosure, you're using a combination of the subwoofer plus the air spring of the air volume of the box to determine. At the end of the day, it is the same thing, whether it's the motor doing it, the suspension, you don't really, whatever, whether it's the motor and suspension doing it, or whether it's the air spring of the enclosure doing it, doesn't matter. It's the same thing. Where people really start, I think my theory about people's obsession with infinite baffle, oh my God, this is so much better, comes down to when you're doing infinite baffle, are you doing a single 12? No. Are you doing two 12s? Usually then.
Probably
no.
Probably
You're doing two 15s or an 18. You're doing, okay, use two 15s of the Audio Mobile Encores in a 2 cubic foot or 3 cubic foot enclosure. And I guarantee you'll have the same end result as doing infinite baffle.
Well, infinite baffle is just an infinitely large seal box.
Exactly. It's the same. It's the same. You get, oh, it's so much effortless. Cool. Yeah. It's more efficient.
Yes.
That is the only thing. It is more efficient because you do not need as much power to, get the speaker going in the low end, because most sealed enclosures are undersized.
Yes.
And as you undersize an enclosure, that low end gets restricted a little bit. But at the end of the day, power is cheap these days. And subwoofers like our moderately shallow 15, you are not going to be able to thermally damage that subwoofer based on what the voice coil is relative to how it behaves and, its X-Max.
Well, I'm going to do a disclaimer here before you start saying that you get a whole bunch of warranty issues. Don't clip your damn amp, because then that's different. All right. But
yeah, that's a different story.
Yeah,
Clean power, you are not going to be able to thermally damage this subwoofer.
Okay.
Period.
So one thing I noticed, and I'm going to talk about it because I used to have them, the Audio Mobile Encore 15s. I had those in Infinite Baffle. And the big limitation with that woofer is,
go on, but I am adding a little asterisk right there. Yeah, but go
on. So I'm going to talk about my Infinite Baffle and sealed. Was at a certain volume, they would bottom out. They just didn't have enough X-Max. And then I was like, okay, well, they're meant for small sealed, at least according to their website. So I was like, cool, I'm just going to seal up a hole. And it led me to, I took one out because the box is going to be too small if I actually cover the hole. Took one out. I think I netted like 1.5 cubic feet, some of that.
Yeah, which is about ideal for it. Yeah.
Ideal, right? And did it sound tighter and cleaner? Yes. I know the answer to that. I'm not getting into why, but long story short, my IB hole was too small. That was why. But when I sealed it up, it did sound tighter and cleaner, but same limitation. When I started really pushing it, it will bottom out. And then I
any
went to,
subwoofer will bottom out if you push it too
yeah, well, it wasn't even like, it was.
Oh, so let's put another disclaimer here. Miguel pushes his system's volume probably more than anyone else that I know in the sound quality field.
The shit is, if I'm paying this much money, the shit better do both, and that's just the end of it. That's just what I'm saying. That's my rule. That's
no, of course. I push myself too. So,
but dude, I'm not even talking about like when I played it for you, I was pushing it, right? 99.9% of my listening is never that. I actually like to listen to my music about 85, 90 dB. Normal
volume.
But every once in a while, I'll get a wide hair. If I have two 15s in the back, I don't want that to be my limiting factor.
Yeah.
It's just kind of ridiculous. So that was always the problem I had with the audio mobiles. It was like, dude, like, why are these things bottoming out at, let's call it 100 dB?
Can I tell you why? Oh, 100 dB?
Yeah, 100 dB. Nothing crazy loud.
I can't tell you why because that's not my experience with them. But I can tell you, when you are an infinite baffle, the way a speaker is designed, unfortunately, physics comes into play. You really can only design a subwoofer for small sealed or infinite baffle.
Yeah.
You have a lot of these companies that, oh yeah, our subwoofers work in small sealed, but you can also use them in infinite baffle. Sure, you can use them however the hell you want.
Yeah.
And I came to these guys and I said, hey, I want to design this sub so it works really well in super small sealed, but also has like the design things in play that allow it to be good for infinite baffle too. And they like laughed at me. I was like, what? They're like, that's not a thing. And I was like, well, all these, what do you mean? Like this company says that, this company says it, and I've kind of experienced it. They're like, yeah, you can get away with it, but it doesn't mean it's ideal. Like you have issues that come up. You have distortion issues. You have unloading issues where, if you're playing below the resonant frequency of the driver, that suspension just starts going berserk. And in an Audio Mobile Encore's case, where it is a relatively shallow design, the difference, and it's a very well designed sub, which means like, hey, our goal here with the Audio Mobile Encore is to make it super shallow, but still have a good amount of throw. The limiting factor there is the difference between X max and X mech. The difference between where the travel stays linear and the travel physically stops is very small. That's the only downside with a
definitely
moderate.
For the audio mobiles, the 12, from what I've heard, is their best sub. Every time I hear the 12s, I'm like, I'm impressed. Like, this is a pretty good sub. And then I hear the 15s, I'm like, it's all right. It's just not my cup of tea for me. And that's why I ended up switching.
I actually have not clippled the 15 yet. I'm going to send that to them when I send in a Truly. I'm going to send in a Truly Illusion C12 XL and a couple others that I have on hand. The Audio Mobile Encore 15, the Elite 10, the Evo 12. I have like I said, I have like one of those of each left over just for warranty purposes. I'll send those in for clipple testing. And distortion testing, but and then the 15, what I'm also excited about for the infinite baffle one is we're also going to try to make it shallow.
That's cool,
but it's going to be a little bit deeper than the moderately shallow 15 for the sealed enclosure, because like I just explained to you, the difference between X max and X mech, we don't want to run into problems where we're smacking coils into backplates.
Got you. So let me ask you this. What is a number that you have seen in terms of X max that is usable day to day? So I see some talking about
usable day to day.
Yeah. So meaning like, all right, so the Arc Audio A10, it says on their thing 8 mils of X max, right?
8 millimeters. So it's funny you say that. The Arc A10 was actually the first sub that was clipple tested because the owner was in a rush.
Yeah.
The person that I borrowed it from. And I have the results, the clipple results back from that sub. I can pull that up for you.
Let's do it
right here. I don't want to go too much because I want to release everything at once.
Yeah.
But
I mean, we're almost 2 hours in. We'll see how many people actually go this far, and we'll see if they get.
Maybe you might want to just break it up into 2 podcasts. One for all the sound editing stuff, and then so all right, A10. All right, here is the notes from the testing of the A10. There's 2 bullet points here. Bullet point 1 is good BL symmetry. CMS only resolved to 65%. No inductance management, and LEX performance is bad. And then the second bullet point is TRF test, which TRF is transfer related function, transfer function. I don't actually know what the R stands for. Tests at 1 volt and 14 volts, which is the voltage that it reached its displacement limits. There is a large THD spike at 30 hertz in the 1 volt test that completely goes away after the 14 volt test. That could be some sort of resonance in the full cover cat. All right, so none of that is really relevant to what you just asked. So I'm opening up the document for the Klippel measurements, and it actually hits. So it states 8 millimeters one way
on the website.
It actually does more than that.
If you look at the manual, it says 8 mils.
Yeah, it actually does more than that.
What does it do?
It does 10.23 millimeters. And that is displacement limit due to force factor variation. And then there is the compliance variation, which is 12.75 millimeters, displacement limit due to compliance variation. So here's where inductance on that, or not inductance, where Xmax on that subwoofer gets absolutely hammered. Mm-hmm. The displacement limit due to inductance variation, according to the Klippel test, is 2.4 millimeters.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's just that the inductance performance on this sub is not symmetrical or not good because it doesn't have any inductance management.
Yeah. They don't have any shortening rings on it, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. No shortening rings in there. Yeah. So yeah, asymmetry between BL is 5%. Asymmetry between stiffness of the suspension is 21%. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Other than inductance, it's a pretty good sub. And other than inductance, it actually does more than its stated Xmax amount, which is extremely rare these days.
Yeah. So
usually it's well under. So I can give you a perfect example of that.
Yeah.
Another sub we tested was based on BL. It was like 1/3 of its stated Xmax.
Wow.
Yeah.
Damn. So yeah, way to go marketing bullshit. But
well, it's not exactly. Yeah, I don't want to say it's marketing bullshit. At the end of the day, there's multiple ways to determine, as long as you state how you measured it, there's multiple ways to determine what Xmax is defined by. You can define it by anything you want. The industry best standard is 70% of BL on the Klippel.
Yeah.
But if your suspension design is bad, the suspension can totally screw things up. If your inductance is bad, it can totally screw things up. But before the Klippel, the industry standard was just a measurement of the motor gap height and the coil height, just an equation of those two things, and you get Xmax.
Okay. Well,
but it doesn't tell you how the motor performs.
True. And you're saying it in such a way because you want to be politically correct. I don't give a damn. It's marketing bullshit. Because at the end of the day, all these manufacturers all have, like, if
they have the capability to do it.
They have the capability to do it. So them stating
you said it, not me.
I said it. I don't give a damn. So dude, it's just one of those things because, for instance, the Arc Audio A10, right? It is a relatively cheap subwoofer.
Yeah.
And is one of my favorite subwoofers for front sub because it's cheap. If I break it, whatever. I just buy
$180 and get it.
Yeah, cool, great.
Or whatever it costs. I don't know what it costs.
I think retail's like $300, if that.
I thought it was cheaper.
But then you have something like, let me think. Fuck it. Utopia 10WM. That
I got the Klippel back on those too.
Yeah, I would love to know, but it says 10 liters. If you put that sub in that small an enclosure, it sounds like absolute asinine dog shit. I don't care who you are or what you think. It does not sound good. And I'm like, why on purposely lie or say something? Because hold up. Because like the TS parameters show one thing, right? Which is very promising. Good BL, good Xmax, 19 mils. Like it shows all these things. I think XMAX is like 26 on it. I think something like that.
That thing can move. XMAX, right? That thing can move.
It can. It has a crazy suspension on it. But you put it in that small enclosure, the Q goes through the roof. And it just no longer sounds good. And I'm like, then don't say it's for that small of an enclosure.
So this kind of circles back to what I was saying before, where I'm like, yeah, but you can get away with a Q of 1 in a car because cabin gain comes into play. Yeah. Let's be real. Let's look at this. This is me being fair to other companies. And I actually think I think this is valid. How far you push this determines how valid it really is, though.
Okay.
At the end of the day, there's a few things to consider here. the biggest one is cabin gain. We're using these in cars, not in living rooms.
Yeah.
We have so much low frequency boost in cars that it's like we can get away with some insane enclosure sizes as far as small enclosures go.
Yeah.
But not only that, think about, okay, so you brought it up. I'm a dealer for them. I love most of their products. The 10WM is not my favorite.
Yeah.
It's not my least favorite, but it's not my favorite. And it's for pretty much a similar reason you just stated. But think of Focal as a company, and then think of ResoNix as a company, right?
Yeah.
Focal is so much bigger than us.
Yeah.
They have so many other things to consider. They have so many employees. They have so many distributors. They have so many dealers worldwide that they have to consider so many other things, and they have to do studies on like, who's going to buy this? Who is this going to be good for? How are we going to prevent warranties? How are we going to prevent this? How are we going to get the best return of investment on the design of this crazy subwoofer?
Yeah.
And how you're going to do that is, think about what cars are. This is a car subwoofer. Think about what is going on in modern car audio installs. What type of installs are your dealers doing? Not what are the hobbyists doing, because we don't matter. The hobbyists don't fucking matter to a company like this because they are less than 1% of their sales.
Yeah.
Okay. What do the dealers need? What do their customers need? Right.
Yeah.
And that is modern vehicle, small enclosure, take up no space. But we're designing a high performance subwoofer, so we need to make it relatively high performance, relatively shallow, and stick it in a small enclosure. And we also need to make it so, it can get loud. Doesn't matter. At the end of the day, anyone and their mother can say, but I want the most accurate sounding sub in the world. Most people say, I don't care about volume. They do care about volume.
Most people just want bass. Most people don't even understand the difference between like good bass and bad bass. It's just, if it goes boom, they're happy.
Yeah. And those same people will tell you, no, I'm really into sound quality and I only care about how accurate it is.
Yeah.
The amount of times I run into this is at the shop that I help tune, Sound Concept.
Yeah.
We call it the homeboy hump. And what it refers to is leave that 40 hertz cabin gain. Don't cut it. Just leave it. When a customer gets in and listens, they're like, oh, but it sounds really good, but there's not enough bass. What I do is I'll hit bypass on that filter that's eliminating that cabin gain peak. And they go, oh yeah, it's so much better. And I'm like, and I look at Jose and Joey and Bruce and they know exactly. They're like, yep, just whatever the customer wants.
Yep.
And that's it. It might not be technically correct, but guess what? The customer who's paying for it, that's what they want. So at the end of the day, Focal needed to design a subwoofer that can behave well enough in a relatively small seal enclosure, handle a ton of power, give a good amount of output while still sounding relatively good, regardless of what us as audiophiles, what the engineers and audiophile might truly want. That doesn't matter. What's going to sell? What's going to be less problematic, right?
Yeah.
What's going to net us a good product that our dealers are going to like and want to sell. That's it. And I don't fault them for that.
Dude, I agree with everything you're saying. Everything you're saying, I agree, but here's where I have to disagree with you. And I'm going to use you as an example, right? Focal, like you mentioned, is a huge company, right? You, in terms of Focal, are a very small company, but you're still going out of your way to create a subwoofer and putting proper specs out, showing what this subwoofer is supposed to do and can do with proper enclosure sizes and being just transparent. Like, hey,
specs are accurate.
True, but the 10-liter part isn't. For instance, yours, you're saying my ultra shallow sub to have a proper QTC is what you mentioned, three cubic feet, 2 cubic feet, something like that.
For which one?
For your ultra shallow.
For 3.5 for the ultra shallow 12. Yeah.
You get 0.77, but you can squeeze in a 0.5, Q will go to about 1, transparency, right? They don't mention none of that. They're saying this works in 10 liters. And that sub like completely gets ruined. Now you put that sub in I've used to own 3 of those subs. I actually love them.
Yeah.
But put in a 1 cubic foot, love those subs to death. I think they're great, accurate.
Put in a half a cubic foot, it doesn't do it.
It just doesn't do it.
So let me explain to you.
Okay.
And I've learned this the hard way. Like I said, I'm redoing my website right now.
Yeah.
How the whole new website came about was I had that marketing guy who developed my old one, and it was a disaster, and I knew I needed to fix stuff. Customers couldn't find stuff. Data, there's so much data on my website. Everyone gets overwhelmed, and everything's like laid out not in a super organized way. So I researched CRO companies. CRO stands for conversion rate optimization. What they specialize in is optimizing websites for navigation, user experience, things like that.
Okay.
And getting everything organized and easy to digest, no matter how much information there really is. Take all this information and make it as digestible as humanly possible without compressing it or without compressing it too much to where you're comfortable with. I told them, I'm not okay with compressing any of it. I need all of this data to be there. So we need to work on, they're like, yeah, we're designing an entire new website at that point. And I was like, okay, let's do it. And 8 months later, we are almost launched. But what I have learned over the years from customers is the more information you provide, the more possible avenues for objection your customer is going to have. So if Focal stated, oh, you can use our subwoofer, like it's ideally this, but you could get away with this, people are going to read that and be like, what the fuck? No, because every other company on the market is saying, yeah, use ours and have a cubic foot.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of getting on the same playing field and also being realistic. And some people are not going to like this, but whatever. Being realistic in the fact that our customers don't know the fucking difference anyway.
Yeah.
Like we just said before, some of these customers, they say they want the best sound quality in the world. What they really want is 45 hertz.
Yeah. They just want it to be fun. Most customers want fun.
And that is 99.999% of customers that are buying car audio as a whole. And inside of the sound quality community, the hobbyist community, I would bet even a majority of them still want that, even though they say they're into, high-end sound quality, accurate audio.
I can count in less
more than less
hand how many people have told me I don't listen to it loud, and the second I'm done tuning it, what's the first thing they do? Crank it up a lot. And in the beginning, like when I first started WaveForm, I used to like follow what they said, like, oh dude, I barely listen to it. And then like it'll be like 95 dB. And like,
it's really funny. Someone's car you tuned probably told you that, and I ended up hearing his car and he had that complaint about it. Yeah, it just doesn't really get that loud.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, well, all right. But this was a while ago. And you just said like, yeah, I just used to listen to what customers said and do whatever. I'm like, and then I learned like Miguel tunes his shits to be super loud. So like, what?
I have changed it because every single time they're like, they just want more and more and more. So I'm like, okay, I can do that. That's easy. So yeah, I definitely get what you're saying. Like a lot of the customers don't actually know what they want, not in their own fault. Like they're not lying to me on purpose. They just don't know. The correct word, this sounds like a dirty word, but it's really not. It's just ignorance. Ignorant. Yeah.
Ignorance is just the definition. It's just not knowing what's, just not knowing.
Yeah.
Not even being aware of it. And that's fine. That's okay.
No, 100%.
So it just comes down to it needs to be simplified. Yeah. And I promise you, if I wiped most of the data and most of the descriptors and descriptions and helpful information on my website, and I watered down my videos, I guarantee you I would be doing more in revenue than I am right now. I guarantee you.
I wouldn't doubt it.
The CRO team that I'm working with, my first website botched. Second website, paid a lot of money for, also botched.
Yeah.
This one, I was like, you know what? Clearly, it takes a lot of money and really specialized people to do certain, just like in car audio. I am highly specialized at a few very specific things. You would not come to me for other things at all. Why should I do the same thing for people that are in the digital marketing space? I can't get a website developer who also specializes in SEO, who also specializes in paid ads, who also specializes in conversion rate optimization, who also specializes in graphic design.
Yeah.
It's not a thing. It's just not possible. So I was like, okay, I'm going to compartmentalize this one and I'm going to go as hard as I really can. And I hired a very respectable CRO team. And they have been hammering into me the entire time, dude, we need like when we first started, they're like, we need to simplify this. Like, this is too much. You're like, customers are going to be turned away. And I'm like, I know they're not the people I care about though.
Yeah.
If customers are turned off by too much information, that's not my demographic.
Yeah.
I don't need to become Focal. I don't need to become, you know, these giant companies. That's not my goal. I don't want 20 internal employees and distributors and sales reps. I want me, my very small team, and that's it. If you asked me a year ago, a year and a half ago, I would have told you I am never hiring an employee ever again. Ever. I have a couple now. You know, I hired an assistant who handles our customer service, which that has been a godsend. I hired Carson recently to do our tech support, which has also been a godsend. It's just a matter of finding the right people for the certain tasks and keeping things very simple. We're getting our own warehouse very, very shortly. Actually, we start moving in 2 weeks on
Sweet.
September 1st, hiring one of my buddies to be the warehouse manager. Outside of that, I really don't want to have to hire anybody. I really don't. I want to maximize the company as it kind of currently sits.
Yeah. And once again,
that's it.
That's what I like about it, dude. To me, it's just transparency. That's all it needs to be. If it's too much information or too lack of information, it's just transparency. And if someone like me that wants to get into the nitty gritty and nerd out, cool. And I've seen your new website. I think it balances that line extremely well. It is streamlined enough for people who don't know to get understand like what the product is. And if you want to understand, go to the technical page and it'll break it down.
That took years to get to this point where when you first went to my website and I had all that information, it was like oh my God, dude. It was an essay of a product description.
It's good.
And I've had to do a lot of work, and I have had to trim some stuff and like put it in different areas where if people want to read certain things, like it's over here. But
the buyer's guide is so nice. Like
that is not as good as I want it to be. That's next on my list to tackle.
Dude.
I just tackled the independent testing data page to be to modify it a little bit to be more digestible, but still have all of the same information. The buyer's guide is next on my list to kind of massage a little bit, polish up into place.
But I mean, like the information on there.
Oh yeah,
like, it could take someone who doesn't know anything about sound deadening or anything, and it's like you read that like 5 times, and you know enough to like be very dangerous and like actually know how to deaden up.
You read that once, you know more than pretty much every shop out there.
Yeah.
Of like what you need to do.
And it's great. Well, we're down to 2 hours. Is there anything that you want to talk about?
Yeah, we're not done. Come on, son.
Baby. Let's talk.
I'll tell you this. I have to leave by 3:30 because my girlfriend's last day at her current job is today, and they're having a little party for her. Nice. She got a new job. And moving on up in the world.
Heck yeah.
And so proud of her. She was already doing crazy stuff, and she's
even better.
Super proud of her. Anyways, back to the subwoofers. The line was originally a 10 and 12 ultra shallow, a 10, 12, and 15 moderately shallow, and a 15-inch infinite baffle. Yeah. We are now introducing the idea of a 12-inch and an 18-inch infinite baffle offering. The 12-inch will be not really true infinite baffle, but more so very large sealed enclosures. So you can, because who does true IB through the floor with a 12? Nobody.
Yeah.
It's for the people doing trunk baffles, because every time I've done or tuned, I have over I don't know if you know this, I have over 1,000 tunes under my belt at this point.
Man. That's awesome.
Crazy.
Yeah.
In that time, in the decade plus that I've been tuning cars, I've done a fair share of trunk baffle, infinite baffle setups, and most of them with 15s. The problem is the trunk is too small of an airspace, and you get worse performance than just doing a different sub that takes a sealed enclosure and doing a sealed enclosure. That Genesis from Houston that we did. That's one of the best sounding cars that I built for a customer. It's probably the best sounding car that I built for a customer that has ever left my shop. Okay. The only thing that might have touched it was the Nissan Versa that I built, but I wasn't as good at tuning back then. And the equipment we used in that car wasn't as good as the Genesis, but whatever. That one probably had the potential to be better, but this Genesis was probably the best customer car that's ever rolled out of my shop. The only thing it really struggles with, there's a few little things, as with every car. One of them is 2 15s, infinite baffle, and a trunk baffle, and it has a very small trunk. Started tuning it, rolled off at like 25 hertz with a steep roll off. And I was like, whoa, what the fuck? And I yell, I got cables all, I'm sitting in the car. I got the laptop on my lap, being a little lazy at the same time. I roll down the window. I'm like, hey, Matt, can you check the trunk and like see if there's a crossover enabled on the amplifier or something? And he goes, yeah, sure. And I actually don't. Let me see. I don't know if this amplifier even has a built-in crossover. It was the Helix C1 that we were using.
Dude, the way you said Matt, he's like, yeah, sure. That's like Matt to a T. It's exactly what he would say. Like, yeah, sure.
He just goes, sure.
Yeah.
He's very, very mono, very simple.
Man of little words.
Yeah, so it does have a crossover on that amplifier. I was like, hey, can you disable the crossover on the amplifier? I think it's enabled. And he goes and checks, and he's like, no, it's off. I was like, what the fuck? And at this point, the trunk is open. And I'm like, let me see again. And I just measured again. And all of a sudden, it measured flat down to 5 hertz, as low as my microphone could go.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, motherfucker. Like, damn it. I thought we were going to be able to get away with this. What we ended up having to do is just boost the low end. Excursion was being limited by the air spring of the trunk.
Yeah.
So we just had to, boost it, bring back excursion. And that was it. It worked, but it was like, at that point, just use a subwoofer that's designed for sealed.
Yeah.
So we're doing a, 12-inch that will probably be designed to handle like 4 or 5 cubic feet.
Nice.
But really is meant for trunk baffle setups. And the 18 infinite baffle will be for true, free air. I don't know if we're going to do the 18. It's such a limited amount of people that can realistically fit it in their car. And going through the effort of designing, testing, prototyping, reprototyping, adjusting, manufacturing, boxing, storing an 18 that, I might sell 10 of.
Just make it for me. That's it. Just make it for me.
I'll make a prototype for you. It's not that it's expensive, but like for a custom, like it's not too bad. So I could do it for you.
It'd be sick.
Could do it for anyone watching this. If I don't release the 18, I still might be able to get it custom made for you. So feel free to let me know.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. And then we're also toying with the idea of an ultra shallow 15.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Because I was thinking about it, and I was like, a lot of these cars have space, but not depth.
Yeah.
Or a lot of people are willing to raise their floor a little bit. That's it. But can get the airspace in length and width.
It's like trucks.
Trucks or, sedans or SUVs, all of them.
Yeah.
All of them could get it. My car could use it. I could do 115 in a shallow thing and still have a usable trunk floor.
How much power do you think you'll need?
For that one, I don't know, but I could tell you this. I have like I said, I have the notes right here. The 10-inch ultra shallow, we're aiming for, a 2.25-inch voice coil for 400 watts, 15 millimeters or 16 millimeters of excursion. The 12-inch, we're aiming for a 2.75-inch voice coil for 16.5 to 17 millimeters of excursion. Back to the 10, 25 millimeter X mech. So 15 to 25.
Nice.
Then the 12-inch, we're going for 16.5 to 17 to 27 millimeter X mech with 500 watt rating. The moderately shallow 10-inch, we're going for same 2.25 voice coil 17 millimeter X Max, 25X Max, 600 watts. That'll have better cooling because of the motor, I think. Just different motor design. 12-inch, same 2 3/4, 20 millimeter Excursion, 27X Mac, 800 watts. 15-inch is, I think, these are preliminary specs. I actually, as I'm reading these, I think we changed these because I know we were talking now about the 15 using a 4-inch voice coil, but the notes say 3 1/4. And also the stated Excursion is a little lower than what we were discussing. So I think this changed. All of these might have changed, but the very early preliminary notes were 3 1/4 voice coil, 22X Max, 30X Mac, 1200 watts. And then the 15-inch infinite baffle, 4-inch coil, thermally rated for 700, mechanically between 4 to 500, 25 plus millimeters of X Max at 70% BL, between 22 and 23 millimeters for 80% BL, with a 2-inch pole vent and a 5 1/4-inch diameter magnet. So
go ahead and just send me that. Go ahead.
It's like I said, I think some of this has changed because we managed to find different baskets to accommodate really what we were looking for. I think we were able to extract a little more out of stuff. So I don't know what we're updated to. I should get with them and be like, hey, what are we at as far as these, and kind of keep that. But yeah, I'm really, really excited, especially since, I just posted about it. Didn't really do anything crazy, and there was a lot of interest.
Yeah, there is.
And I was like, oh shit, this could be good.
Yeah.
Like, I might actually be able to afford to do this.
Well, just kind of like you mentioned, and given that you feel that way, I feel like a lot of us feel that way. There's not that many good offerings for super shallow or moderately shallow subs. What is out there typically just isn't that good. A lot of people, like, their staples a JO-TW3. Personally, not my favorite sub. That's just me. Some people love it.
I think that's one of their best sounding subs. And it's all not.
Yeah, I just don't think
subjectively perfect in my opinion.
Yeah,
but we'll know. I have one of those off for testing. I have a W7 out for testing. I have W3s, W6s. I have pretty much the entire JL line out for clipple testing and distortion testing. And we have some results back on those too, and some of them match my thoughts. But we'll just keep that quiet until the data is released, because some of those people get very, very, very sensitive. But that's okay. That's their choice to be very sensitive. It's not like their daddy owns the company, but they act like they do.